I wear different stoles. These are called stoles. And today is one for All Saints Day. And I wonder if you know these shapes here. These two shapes. You know what those are? Let me look at it. Yeah, one looks like an A, you're right.
That one kind of looks like a balloon.
Yep, that's right. It's kind of like a balloon floating up, okay? Can people in the congregation see it? Yeah? Yeah? Well, you're absolutely right. Like eagles flying. That's pretty. You see that. They could also be crosses, but they do look like eagles flying, don't they? Yeah. Well, these are two letters. These are two letters from the Greek alphabet. And they're the first letter and the last letter of the Greek alphabet. In our alphabet, what's the first and the last? Well, A and Z, right? A and Z. In the Greek alphabet, they have fewer letters. They still have the Z sound in there, but the last letter is called an omega. It's the kind of the O sound. So the alpha and the omega are the beginning letter and the last letter of the Greek alphabet, okay? Just like we have A to Z, okay? And that was in our second lesson where God says, I am the alpha and the omega. Now, what suppose God might have been saying, I am the alpha and the omega. I'm the A and the Z, is what he was going to say in English. He's everything. God is everything. Sometimes we say everything from A to Z, sometimes we say. Or we say A is the beginning, Z is the ending. God says, I am everything. I am the beginning and the ending. I'm here in the beginning to give you life. I'm here to bless you. I'll be here at the ending. And for me, there won't be an ending. And for you, really, there won't be an ending because when we leave this world, we go to God's world, be with God completely. So God says, I am the A and the Z. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I'm with you always. And that's what we celebrate on All Saints Day, is that we're here, those who have died and have gone before us, they're with God, but we're all part of God's family, and we're all celebrating. We're all the saints. You and I are all the saints. Yeah? That's right. God made us. That's right. God made us and makes us again each day. That's very good. Okay, thank you very much. You can go sit down. Marathon. I'm not in that good a shape. Not even back then. But a friend of ours from Chelan, Washington was over. He was going to run the race. And so Satya and I teamed up with John. Our friend's name was John. John's wife and his daughter. The four of us kind of were down there and were different parts of the race course during the day to kind of cheer John on as he went by. But as I was looking and seeing that race that day, I thought to myself, this is what we're celebrating on All Saints Day. This is what it's like when we get to heaven. In fact, it's not a marathon race. It's not just what it's like when we get to heaven, but a marathon race is sort of an image for our whole life, for the race that we run. Remember St. Paul, when he was talking about his coming death, he wrote a letter late in his life. He said, for I have fought the good fight, I have run the race. And as I seen that race that day, I was thinking, this is a picture of the people of God and the life that we live, and then we arrive at heaven's gates. And there were a number of things that made me think about that. First of all, just being at the race and seeing the huge variety of people that were running in that race, and how the variety of runners is kind of like the huge variety of people that are in God's family, all of us, and plenty more. I noticed that day in the race, for example, there was a whole family of 7 that was running the marathon together. There was the mother and the father, and then 4 of their children that ranged, I think, from about 14 to 22. But also running with them was the grandfather of the family. He must have been 69 or 70 years old. And he was running along in his bib overalls and red suspenders, and he was wearing his farm work boots, believe it or not. He was pumping along on that marathon race, and he was staying up with the rest of them. And then there was a teacher. I think she must have been a teacher from one of the special ed classes in Portland. She was running with about 5 of her students, and they were having a great time running along. There was a cardiologist. I think he had a sign. The reason I knew that is he had something taped to his running shirt. He was a cardiologist. And the 5 men and women running with him had all had heart attacks about 2 years previously. And they had been through a whole series of dedicated reconditioning for their heart and for their whole body. And they were running the marathon that day. There were two people on crutches, a man and a woman. I'm not sure if they finished the marathon, but I saw them moving along on crutches. There were four men who were paraplegics, and they were in wheelchairs. They were sort of in racing wheelchairs. Their legs were very withered, but their arms were huge and muscular. And they were taking turns. They were going along in their wheelchairs in a single file, and they would take turns being the front person. The front person kind of cuts the wind resistance and cuts the wind, and so they were taking turns, and they were insistent that they would finish the race together. And then there were all kinds of people. There was also a George Clooney lookalike running in a Hawaiian shirt, and there was a woman dressed up as a frog running the marathon. And of course, there were the champion runners. There were the indeed gifted athletes who were there to run the race. They were there to win the race. They were there, they were fit, and they were trim, and they were beautiful as they ran along. They were there to do their best and to win the race. But there were also just a lot of runners who weren't there to win the race. They were just there to finish. They just wanted to finish. And so I saw this incredible mixture of all kinds of people, and I thought, this is it. This is us. This is the people of God. This is the family of God. We are all kinds of different people. We are all kinds of different skin colors. We are black and white and Asian and Latino. We are young and we are old. Some of us are strong and achieving. Others of us are struggling and just hoping to get by. Some of us run with vigor. Some of us are just exhausted every step of the way. But this is the whole people of God. This is a mirror of the people of God running our race together. God's race, God's life, a gift that God gives to us. Well, over the 5 hours that it took John to run the marathon, more or less, as I mentioned, the four of us, Satya and I, and his wife and daughter, went to different points along the race so we could cheer him on as he ran fast. Now, we did not run to those locations. We didn't even walk to those locations. We got into a car and drove to those locations. That's my way of doing a marathon. You get into your vehicle and you drive to the places. But it was great because when John would run by, we'd be there and we'd be cheering him on. And what I noticed is there was all kinds of other people all along the course of the race. There were all kinds of people cheering the runners on. Some of them were the family and friends of that particular runner. But there were just a lot of people, and everybody there was cheering for everybody that went by, cheering and clapping for them, and sometimes bringing out a cup of water to give them, or some cut-up pieces of orange or lemon to just kind of slake their thirst for a moment. There was all kinds of encouragement going on. In fact, on one street corner along the way, there was a rhythm and blues band playing because they knew that music is good for the soul. A little vibe is good for the soul to keep those runners going. And I thought again about us being part of the communion of saints. And I said, this is it. This is how the people of God, none of us can finish the race by ourselves. Life is too complicated. Life is too difficult. None of us can complete it by ourselves. We need each other. We need a community of God's people. And so we gather on Sunday mornings and throughout the week and everywhere we meet. We gather to encourage each other on, to support each other. We gather here on Sundays too to share a cup of cold water, actually a cup of wine with each other, the bread of life, God's cup of salvation, because we need to be fed along the way. So part of what it means to be the communion of all saints today is to know that we have each other. And today, we also remember again how we not only have each other right here, but those who have gone before us. They are seeing us over the whole course of the race course, and they are cheering us on, and they are clapping for us. They are encouraging us with their words, and with their music, and with their songs. But it was the end of the race that struck me the most. I was surprised how moved I was. We had shifted at the end of the day back down to the finish line to be there before John came across the line. But we got there plenty early, so we saw literally hundreds of racers come across the line. I was surprised by how much that moved me to see those runners come across the line. I realized they had spent hour after hour, mile after mile, using every bit of their strength to run that race. And when their physical strength had almost disappeared, they began using just their spirit, just their focus, just their intent